We're back, and I'm very pleased to say we're going to be talking with the Honorable Robert Charles momentarily. But first, some words from me. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi turned up Saturday in the capital of Ukraine, effusively declaring, quote, "Our commitment is to be there for you until the fight is done," unquote. Unfortunately, Speaker Pelosi has been far less forthcoming with respect to a matter closer to home. As Mark Levin pointed out during his Fox News program last night, she has not shared her insights into what actually happened on January 6th, 2021. The select committee Ms. Pelosi created ostensibly to establish what occurred cannot possibly accurately do that unless it hears from the Speaker under oath about what she knew that day regarding the threat to the Capitol and when, and why she lowered rather than heightened security for the congressional complex in the run up to the events of that day. Nancy Pelosi's opposition to Vladimir Putin channeling Joseph Stalin would be more convincing if she'd ensure her inquiry is not just a show trial. To discuss that and more, I'm pleased to have with us a man who served our country with great distinction in a variety of capacities as a naval intelligence officer, as a counsel for congressional matters in the Reagan and George H.W. Bush White Houses, and also as the Assistant Secretary of State for Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs during the George W. Bush administration. He's a good friend of this program. We're always delighted to have him with us. Welcome back, Mr. Secretary.
Frank, it's always good to be with you, especially in these consequential times.
They are most consequential. So, what do you make of this phenomenon of a congressional inquiry, a select committee as it's called, that is supposed to root out the truth about January 6th and has not taken testimony, has not even asked for it from a woman who played arguably the single most important role of all? If, as I believe, Nancy Pelosi left the Capitol essentially without the security that might have made all of the rest of it, well, impossible.
Frank, I come to you in part with the pedigree of having run the largest part of the oversight committee for 5 years under Newt Gingrich. And so
Mhm.
I have three or four observations about all this. The first is that I was always intrigued as a lawyer that what counts as a hearing on Capitol Hill is not at all like a hearing in front of a judge. In front of a judge, there's such a thing as due process. There are rules of evidence as to how much will be admitted and what cannot be admitted. And these are unfortunately, even in the best of times, political activities. They're not really inquiries for truth. Now, I say that not because they don't get at truth very often, but because they can omit what they want for political reasons. The second thing I'll say is that there are six or maybe now seven inquiries that have occurred around that event. And one has to wonder at this late stage of the game what part of the inquiries by the Department of Justice and others you don't have faith in, that you need to somehow turn this again into a political act going forward. The third thing I will say is that your commitments to democracy, and I say this for everyone, but it's certainly true of Pelosi, can never be a pick and choose environment. To say that you're in
Yes.
favor of complete transparency and truth and justice in the, I guess, the ways of liberty in Ukraine, and not in favor of them here, is sort of an oddity. And that leads me really to the fourth item, which is the one that bothers me, really sits like a burr under the saddle this morning. And that is that I have never heard of anything like this disinformation board or of review, or misinformation board of review
Governance board.
governance. It is, in fact, Frank, and if people will just, I encourage them, look at a history book, go, if you must, go to Wikipedia and look up the boards of misinformation and where they come from. They all originate really in 1923 with Joseph Stalin. And it was not a board that he established to create misinformation. It was a board he established, just like this one, in order to prevent misinformation from somehow getting out. Well, those are two sides of one coin.
Prevent information that would actually be truthful, but contrary
Precisely.
to the party line, I think you mean to
And that's
say.
the
And
whole, that's the
that's the heart of this problem, isn't
that
it?
is the point. There is no room in a country that honors the First Amendment for a piece of the government to be in the business of sifting and blocking, or essentially taking cancel culture in house. There is absolutely no space or room for that in constitutional America, and so
Right.
that is what worries me the most.
Bobby, I know that you're a spokesman for a marvelous group, the Association for Mature American Citizens, and at amac.us, you've got a new piece out about this issue. I couldn't agree with you more, or more um, adamantly believe that unless this is stopped, what we are going to see is a full frontal assault on, well, not just our First Amendment freedom of speech, obviously, but really on the Constitution writ large. Um, if you agree, what can be done now to prevent this law enforcement agency, no less? I mean, you were involved with law enforcement affairs, of course, at the State Department. This is a very dangerous combination, is to have a ministry of truth plus a lot of guns to enforce it. No.
Yeah, there is no room in the United States of America for speech police. Never mind armed speech police. There is no room for it at all. And I will tell you what burdens me the most. And I do encourage people to go to amac.us. I write almost every day there, and they have spectacular sources of both information in terms of the political world and legal world, but also advice on everything, but Social Security, veterans benefits, etc. But I want to make the point here that in that piece, what I do is this time sequence, which does lead to a what can we do question. The time sequence is that we have watched over the last couple of years the progression in the corporate world quietly behind the scenes, complicit with the government to shut down points of view, to shut down words, even things like the word illegal alien, that we're just not
Yes.
allowed to use anymore. We're going to somehow take them out of the lexicon. This is a step,
So it's not just information; it's even shaping the
of course, language.
conversation that you can have about the information.
Absolutely.
Bobby, we have to take a short break. We're
Sure.
going to come right back, and we're going to talk about this and a larger problem that we call the digital gulag that is being established in this country, modeled, it seems, increasingly out of well, the whole cloth of the Chinese social credit system. We'll be talking about that and much more with Robert Charles, former Assistant Secretary of State, right after this.